Hey, it's the state of everything.
With Xander and Thias.
Wow. Amazing. All right, so that's Mar-a-Lago. That's Sugar Candy Mountain. I'm pretty sure we're licensed to play that because we're really famous.
Let the lawyers take care of it.
I'm just gonna pause it there. Wow, we just re-entered from the other dimension, and so that was Mar-a-Lago by Sugar Candy Mountain. What do you think about that track, Thias?
You sent it to me the other day, and it just when I listened to it, I was like, "Damn, Mar-a-Lago." Maybe they're singing about. How many other Mar-a-Lagos are there? I guess there are probably a few, but the one that I think of is Donald Trump's.
That's like saying, dude, like this song about Queens, like, I'm sure there's a lot of Queens out there, but all I think about is Donald Trump's hometown. It's like you are so deep in this Trump derangement syndrome. Like you're so like you're in it.
The lyrics.
That like well, but let's before we go into the lyrics, let's just remind our many viewers and listeners that Mar-a-Lago happens to not only be this this palatial seaside idyllic mansion of the president, the 45th president of the United States. It actually is a very nice little Floridian town that I'm sure some of our Florida listeners can attest to it being more than just the summer haunt of the Don.
For sure, man. I was thinking they could have been singing about other. I was thinking like cities, towns in the world, other Mar-a-Lagos like outside. I just assumed that, to your point, Mar-a-Lago, Florida. So yeah, I'm right there with you, but that's exactly why I started thinking about it. And like they're saying about Mar-a-Lago, and I don't know, man, the lyrics, I feel like, I don't know. I listened to them once, and it seemed like "Lead Me On," right? Aren't they saying "Lead me on, lead me on, lead me on"?
So it's everywhere you look, there's another dark cloud forming. Don't take it from me. I ain't no sensei. Lead me on, lead me somewhere. I just want what I deserve. Lead me on, lead me somewhere. Make me someone, make me yours. It's heating up in the streets, and the temperature is rising. Talk to me that way.
Daddy president.
You got another thing coming. And it goes into the chorus again. And then this is maybe the telling stanza where it's like burning all the glitz of Mar-a-Lago, dancing on the marble floor. They say everyone's a stranger when the sun goes down, raising lots of eyebrows in this gold leaf town. So it basically kind of talks about this, this ritzy, idyllic beachside, like very 80s, like it's almost vaporwave, and it's like, just shiny glitz, but it's not really anything, right? It's all these old people dancing on marble floors. I guess you can interpret, these lyrics, different ways. They say everyone's a stranger when the sun goes down. That kind of shows like, it's like, I guess there's a bunch of old people from the Midwest, they're New York or whatever, that have moved down there for, the nice weather and the cheapness, I suppose. And that kind of leads to where our president leads, because he was just one of these like old New York geezers who was like, dude, like New York, Mar-a-Lago, Florida is my like getaway from all this craziness. Even though he is crazy, but like that's like his like escape though. So it's like, maybe there are dark clouds forming there, and maybe, it's just it's a sign of the times of like the boomer generation, hitting the sunset, and they're just dancing away on these marble floors where everybody else is watching it all burn. So we'll see, man. I don't know.
what was like the beginning? What was the first few lyrics? I just thought it just seemed really lead me on where I deserve.
I just want what I deserve. Yeah. Lead me on, lead me somewhere. Yeah. So, I mean,
I don't know. I just feel like he's just chirping away up on Twitter, and we're like, he's our president leading us to nowhere. And it's like, it's like a cathartic song in some ways. It's just like, this is crazy, and we're all slowly going insane. But like, let's just chill out and like groove to this cool sound. That was my take. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. That's why, both of our heads went there. They are talking about Trump. I mean, I don't know. Is that crazy to think about?
Mar-a-Lago. I mean, Mar-a-Lago is in the cultural consciousness right now because of Trump. So it's not like it's talking about Trump explicitly, but that's the thing we think of now because, like, that's like literally he calls it his winter White House, dude, you know? So it's like, it has this, you know.
Which he wasn't the first. He wasn't the first to call, lest we forget, George Bush had his Western White House out in Crawford, Texas.
A little bit different from Mar-a-Lago, Florida.
I'm sorry? A
little bit different from Mar-a-Lago.
A little bit different, but did Obama have his another White House? I mean, it's just interesting. I think like the Southern White House or whatever, the winter white, it's like a nice way for, I mean, they're going on vacation, kind of like.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like chilling out on vacation. George Bush spent the most time out of any president, I think, well, maybe Trump is beating that. I don't know.
Yeah, so, you know, what it really is it's a golfing getaway. But I would argue that it's a little bit different because, I mean, you have to think about it this way. Like, that's very characteristic of these last three presidents. Like, they're like winter getaway. I mean, Obama had Hawaii. He didn't call it his, like, his White House or whatever, but he had
he went to Martha's Vineyard, in all fairness. So he went to Martha's Vineyard.
But he stayed in the Northeast for the most part. See, George, you know, was a Texan, you know, so he's going to go back to Texas. And for people from New York, you know that, like, I mean, people in cold climates, for example, like Florida's their like getaway. I mean, you know what I mean? Like Florida's like the Arizona of the West, you know? So people go, Arizona of the East, people go there for an escape because the weather is nice and it's like cheap and it's a good place to be old and die. So a lot of these New Yorkers, they move there, or they at least like, you know, it's the snowbird mentality, right? You know? So I don't blame him for doing it. I think he underworks there though. President Trump. I think he just goes there to play golf. But I think I don't hate the town because of it. Let me just give that out to Beechwood Amalgamator IPA. This is a local one, way too expensive to buy. Don't recommend it, but it's really good. It's actually, I recommend the flavors. It's from Huntington Beach, where everything's expensive. So, you know, it goes with the territory. How about you over there in Boston?
Stone delicious. Same old, same old.
So this is super hoppy. I don't know if yours is hoppy, but this is hoppy, man.
Yeah, this one is as well.
Flowery even. It's piney. It tastes like the woods.
This says a citrus IPA with lemon drop and El Dorado hops.
Okay, if we're going that route, I mean, I might as well too. We've got Mosaic, Warrior, Columbus, and Amarillo hops. It's good, man. I like it. So what's going on in the politics? We're in a trade war with Russia. Is that what's going on? China?
To continue where you were going, I don't despise or dislike either of those places either. And I think that it's important, like that the custom of that, you know, giving the presidents a break. Even they need to get out of Washington. It's such a, I mean, they need a break from politics too, for Christ's sake. Like, survival here. I think that's like an important cultural norm. We're not like gonna expect them to work themselves to death. They go crazy. I don't even live there. I want to live there, and but you know, we'll see. I don't know what that's going to be like. But yeah, they need to take a break, and I think Obama had visits. He went home to Chicago, but Martha's Vineyard and maybe the Cape too. But yeah, I mean, I think though that they were like working more, and I mean, we know that this president doesn't really work that hard. It's just the number of times he goes golfing is a nice kind of convenient figure. There's a price tag on it, 100 million. It's the most kind of, it's like the tip of the spear. But I mean, he's tweeting every day and watching TV and Fox and Friends. And so
Obama made a lot of, I mean, in Trump's defense, Obama made a lot of like, you know, TV show appearances and did a lot of entertainment as well. But you're right.
Nowhere near. Yeah.
I don't like the idea. Yeah. I mean, the amount of golf trips the president takes really does have a lot of, tells a lot about their character, I would think. And then also the amount of tax dollars being spent on trips to Mar-a-Lago is very dark indeed. There is a dark cloud forming America.
But that's why it's so, I mean, yeah, that's why I connected it. I don't know. It's because I'm paying attention to politics and it's stupid, but it was also on point. It comes back to Mar-a-Lago. He just, I mean, that's what's current in the news. He just took out a loan from some podunk little bank. And I mean, he's a billionaire supposedly. And he just got this like bizarre small, like got, you know, loan from this small bank in Florida. And then he turned around and appointed the CEO of that bank to like the Florida Fed or this, you know, so, but Deutsche Bank, we're probably going to get to see those taxes soon, and it's going to start getting real interesting quick. I think the end is nigh. He's going to start panicking. His mind is already fracturing into tiny little pieces, and it's going to be messy. And who knows how this election is going to turn out. I can't see him doing well in debates, though. I can see him getting real frazzled. It might not even go that far. Who knows?
Well, okay, so I'm not so much concerned about the fall of Trump as you are. I think that I think that even though I think he's the favorite to win 2020, I think you're right. The end is nigh and like doom is definitely impending, like a black cloud. But what I would say though is I'm not as worried about taking Trump down. I think it's actually fairly easy when it comes down to it in the next couple of years. I'm more concerned about what takes over for him. I mean, are we just going to be like okay with like a Mike Pence type situation? Are we going to be like, you know, going extremely, you know, corporate left or extremely like far left in terms of the, I guess, socialism? So it's like, what are the answers? So like, where do we? This is, I think, one of the major points that I think that we have to discuss in going forward is, what is the future of liberals? What is the future of the American left? What is the future of leftists? Like people that are, you know, basically communists in this country. There are more than you'd like to admit. They might not know that they're communists, say they're communists, but they're actually communists in theory if you ask them what their beliefs are about what to do with things like, you know, basic personal liberties in this country. You know, so a lot of people are more proto-fascist than they'd like to think, than you and me would like to think in this country. A lot of that can be related to the abortion debate, the gun debate, the free speech debate, censorship, tech, you know, rights over your own data. I mean, these are all kind of the lines that are being drawn right now. And I think it's going to be a little bit more complex than just like take down Trump or like vote Joe Biden, who's like joking about if it's okay to touch little boys on stages. Like, oh, is it okay if I touch you like that way? Like, dude, like just don't fucking go. Like, what? Like, just, dude, what? Like, no, sorry. Bye-bye. Like, this is the Me Too era, bro. Like, you moved on, Joe Biden. Like, you're not welcome in the party anymore.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that's a bit extreme. He's not welcome. You know, the guy has served this country for his whole life, his whole career. I mean, he did well as a vice president. He's a stand-up guy. He's a role model. Has a lot of clout. He knows how to work. He's a reminder of like how politics has accomplished things, you know, working across the aisle. Just because he's not like the future of the party doesn't mean that he's worthless and should be banished. I mean, the guy is like.
No, I agree. But he shouldn't be treated. He shouldn't be lauded as this like the coronation, the Hillary effect. We don't need another Hillary. We already learned our mistakes about just injecting the corporate favor on the left. It's like you can't just expect us to just go along with it when you have a sketchy past. You voted for wars and like endless like, you know, like these weird crime bills that haven't really helped, you know, like war on drugs type things. These aren't things that are necessarily the progressive route that maybe we need to move in. And We learned our mistakes with Hillary. We don't need another old corporate Democrat that the media thinks is going to be the next like guy just because that's what they say. Fuck what they say. I don't care. We're individuals, man. It's independent America, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wearing blue light blocking glasses for a reason. CNN won't tell you that shit.
But yeah, I mean, I think that I think there's you can't apply today's standards to you can't hold the past to your own standards. I think like everyone's got their own realities to deal with and make that, move along as you have to resolve these contradictions. That's what liberals and conservatives do. One group kind of looks forward, one kind of keeps what is working in the past, and you through the middle, through the compromise, whatever, you make do. So I think to just totally like attack or just find fault so easily, and this is like for example, if you were to apply that logic to something like the state of Texas, I think you would, how did the United States acquire Texas? Well, we started a war on false grounds and just took the land, and it was ended up what started the Civil War. But at that point, it was I think the guy, the president at the time. The president died. The vice president, it was unsure whether or not like the vice president became the full president or was just the vice president acting as president. So to in part assert his own authority, he attacked. It basically started the War of 1812, I think. Or no, just the Mexican-American War. This is bogus. I can't remember when it was. It's the 40s, 1840s, maybe early 50s. I don't know if you're looking this up or not, but no, Mexican-American War, whatever. It started, and that's how we got Texas. And if you were to apply that logic, well, you'd say, well, we should give Texas back. It's only, it only makes sense if the only rightful and honest true thing is to give Texas back to Mexico, because that would, I think that that's like the most blatant example of that, but it can be applied to any moment in time. It's just, the issues that are more near to the present are probably what is most bitterly fought over. But it's like it's good to be righteous in a cause about like the future and righting the wrongs of the present, but it doesn't make, I don't think it does us any good to look backwards and just like attack all the people who were, yes, you can, whether or not you switch perspectives and progress at certain stages and what was influencing you at the time. And some people, if it's money, I don't know why people make their decisions, but like some are right and some are wrong, and some are cut and dry and should be very, slavery is always wrong. Women's rights were in the Me Too movement. Like, this is important. But, I just think like if you're too hard on that, you risk, for instance, maybe this isn't the most like, we could be bitter about the fact that this Republican congressman who just came out and said Trump, that we should start impeachment proceedings. We could say, oh, you're late to the party, you're an asshole, fuck you, or we could say, thank you, you're the first to recognize this, welcome, like, let's have others join us. This is how we all acknowledge the reality that this man is just a terrible president, horrible example for us all, and let's move on.
You
You
don't
know,
need an empty suit like a former vice president under an incredibly popular black president. You don't need a guy just to show up and like have a nice white smile and say and wave perfectly and say I stand with you and I know we need to bring more people into the party. And it's like, excuse me, how are you the guy that's going to bring more people into the party? Like, you're the past, you know, and you're not progressive past like Mr. Bernie Sanders on the farther left. He's an older gentleman that actually his political acumen, his political agenda is more in line with where the 2020s needs to go. Joe Biden is more of a 1990s Democrat. We've moved on from that. We cannot keep looking into the past. We cannot keep looking at the mistakes of the past. We cannot just elect a corporate, big money, you know, Democrat with this kind of like Wall Street agenda. I'm sorry. He might talk a big game about he's on your side, but what is the evidence that he's actually like a progressive that needs to deal with the very incredibly crazy and real and like, you know, environmentally, you know, we have crises on a level that Joe Biden, he's just a guy, dude. He's a guy. Yeah, I got a smile and a good handshake and I'm going to give you a little massage. Who the fuck is Joe Biden?
Dude, I think it's way too early. It's way too early. We're not even in.
It's only 5:30 p.m. I know.
Primary season hasn't kicked off yet, but I mean, look, I think Bernie Sanders, if he were to be elected, he would just be called a socialist, which is what he is, which is why a whole group of people, you could just write him off as a socialist.
Tulsi Gabbard, next in line.
Not get anything done. Plus, he's got some weird connections to about Russia and like.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Of course he does. Yeah. The Russian connection.
He says weird. He has weird opinions. Like, why did he vote against sanctioning Russia? Like he was like one of the few people to vote against sanctioning Russia in response.
Better to get along. Better to get along, baby.
Okay. I'm not gonna better to get along. Like, okay, yay. Here, let's just turn around and like open our assholes for Putin to fuck us over every election cycle, you know, like, cause why don't we just do that? That's just cut to the chase. And, you know, then we can play our little games with, you know, ruining the rest of election law. You know, the rule of law can be meaningless because, you know, whoever gets elected president next can just, you know, call for their political opponents to be investigated by the attorney general. And, you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, Russia, but unfortunately we got to get over it. And like, there are some weird things that like, you know, Bernie Sanders is kind of like, I think Bernie Sanders is not this like clean cut, you know, future hero. And I think that he's like himself is old and like kind of represents old. I mean, socialism doesn't work. We all know this. It's all been done before. That's what the 20th century was all about. We can look at North Korea for socialism. So it's a hybrid. You need a hybrid. All you need is some good old fashioned spirit of FDR, you know, experimentation, try to do things, you know, work towards some goals and addressing, you know, making capitalism work for the 21st century. It's really not that complicated.
And that's exactly what I advocate for. A Bernie Sanders candidate, why someone like me goes for a candidate like that is because he actually is he's actually a democratic socialist candidate. And it's more of he's a social democrat. And he's more of an independent and he believes in, you know, a lot of the same things I believe in. Maybe the routes of which he wants to get there are different, but it's very disingenuous of you as an educated person. You have 2 degrees from universities and you're just like these fucking like Tommy Lahren types on Fox News. It's like, oh yeah, we know socialism doesn't work. It's like, you sound like a puppet, dude. It's like, I'm not talking about socialism. I know that he's made the mistake of calling himself a socialist in the past. I think he's moved on. He's a little bit smarter than that now to understand that like the way forward is like expanding some of the socialistic programs that are already working in this country and, you know, making things a little bit more fair in a corrupt world full of oligarchs, a lot of them which you support. You think that this capitalist, like corporate kleptocracy is like okay for some reason, just by nature of it being American and not Russian. But we have many of the same problems that Russia has, and many of the people that you think are like the answers actually might be part of the problem, dude. You might be actually like misguided a little bit. You might be misled by these smiling people, dude.
I don't pretend to know everything. I just and I don't know what will turn out. I think it's good that Bernie Sanders is in the conversation, without a doubt. He is presenting some good ideas.
Thank you.
He's forcing the conversation, and I think that it could be a lot worse than Bernie Sanders. Somebody else who is just maybe more extreme, different I mean, if the problem keeps getting worse, who knows what people will demand and what leader will potentially fulfill. And Donald Trump is a populist that has started a personality cult all around himself. Okay, all we do in this podcast is talk about him, and how many other people talk about him in their everyday lives. Imagine if somebody with a different personality who's not this vicious imbecile comes along and persuades the American people to do some really radical things that might sound good in theory, but I think might go a little bit too far the other way. But I mean, it's hard to know what that is when we're talking in hypotheticals. But what I do, I have trust that we haven't gone too far down this like pit of crisis that we can't fix ourselves with tweaking the system, doing using data and the ideas that we have. There are a lot of ideas on the table that don't involve, I mean, it's not plausible to put everyone on a single payer. Like, it took Obama like a year, or I don't know how long. They passed it 2000. It's like 2 years, I think. It was a while for them to do all the planning just to get the website up for Obamacare, healthcare.gov, and it crashed for like a week. So that one task, imagine flipping the entire insurance industry, a third of the American economy, upside down. I mean, people would die. People are going to die, and that's poor people.
People are going to die.
That's my kind of, I think that things can be done, and but I'm not sure he's the best person. It's good that he's like bringing those ideas, but I'm not sure he's the best person to lead that conversation.
A big problem of the liberals side.
He's also super, super old, man. Like,
please. He's a year older than Biden. Don't give me that. He's a year older than Biden.
Yeah, I'm not supporting Biden. He's not my candidate. So I say it's too early.
Yeah, all right, whatever. Amy Klobuchar is the answer probably to all our problems. See, this is the problem with the left, man, in this country. The problem is there's no personal responsibility.
Pete Buttigieg is
easy.
I don't know, man. He's like all our politics is entertainment, and right now this guy is intellectually jousting where Trump is like flailing. So it's like, okay, this guy is like kind of jabbing and insulting Trump in good ways, and Trump can't respond. And that's, I feel like, just the base calculus that people, I mean, before it was like, we hate Hillary and she's terrible, and the way it's been is terrible. And it was like hilarious for people to just see Trump mock the entire system and establishment, because we all know how broken it is. And now it's like, okay, we're thinking about reform, and who is the best person to do that? And this guy is like, I think on a value level too, middle America and the rest of America and older people see him, and like, he's, I don't know, they see him. I think people look at him and see what and like him. I don't know. He's like showing up the most on like, feel like my Twitter feed, and it's not representative of everyone's, but like, I don't know, maybe I guess that says more about me than what other people might be doing. Whatever. Dude, we can't get too wrapped up in fucking presidential politics. It's I don't even know when the primaries. Probably February is
So
Iowa.
here's the issue with the left in this country. Let me tell you what in my opinion, the issue is. There's no accounting for personal responsibility. It's literally, let's just listen. Like, we need a daddy to lead us into the future. It's like we're falling into the same traps that the right made when they fell for the personality cult that was Donald Trump. It's like resist to the point of like we need we need a daddy. Like we need someone to like save us. Like I'm the damsel. I'm America and I'm the damsel in distress. Daddy, save me. It's like that's what people think that on the left. And no daddy's gonna save you. Figure out some shit on your own. Like we're talking about these candidates like it's the horse race is all that matters. I hate that about how what politics have turned it into in this country. The horse race, like, oh, who's in front now in the polls? Like, who the fuck cares? Like, what are they saying? What are these people saying and what are they acting like every day on the trail? Like, who are they as humans? Regardless of who supports them, regardless of their polling numbers, regardless of their media coverage, we need to listen to people and not like dude, the filter of the mainstream media is crumbling right now. Like, I think that big news media organizations are freaking out because they're losing money. A, they're losing money. B, like regular old Joes are figuring out how to circumvent the system completely and say, you know what, CNN, I'm on the same equal footing as you politically now because I can do the same stuff you do from a $12 a month hosted domain on Squarespace or whatever, or YouTube. The idea that there's gatekeepers now is ridiculous. There are no. I mean, the gatekeepers are, obviously the ones with the resources, with money. Like it's the haves and the have-nots. That's why all these leftists that keep complaining about race as being the defining issue of our time, I would argue, that it's a component of a bigger issue that is the haves and the have-nots. Who has and who doesn't have. The people who don't have are going to end up revolting against the ones that do have because that's how revolutions work. And that's literally what we're on the cusp of.
We're not on the cusp of revolution at all. Like there's still for all bad, this country hasn't experienced hardship since this is a pompous statement and everyone's experienced hardship in their own ways. You could say, I think national collective suffering and hardship, there's these nationwide national events, September 11th, the Great Recession, the economic, you could say like Hurricane Katrina was just one section. That was a huge thing, but that was just one part of the country, like how terrible that was. And you could go back, to all the different wars. But so I think that it's so easy to get kind of like wrapped up into things. And I understand it as well because it's maddening and it's taking forever. But I don't know. I think the mainstream media, they're breaking all. I think there's a place for mainstream traditional journalism. They're the ones who are like, they have the resources to break all these stories.
Controlling the narrative. They have the resources to control the narrative.
Controlling the narrative. They're telling us what's happening. Is there a truth? Without the mainstream media, we wouldn't have known anything that like is happening politically. They're the ones breaking all the stories on everything that's happening. All the leaks. All the court. You need to be informed about there's like events that are happening and they have the resources, Joe Schmo on the internet who is, he is using their content. This guy can't go and do investigative journalism. What about investigative journalism, man?
I'm not saying Joe Schmo on the internet. I'm saying independent journalists. So you don't need a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate to, like represented by Jim Acosta, to tell you the facts when he's telling things in his own biased way, which is fine. That's all journalism has bias. Like, there is bias to our daily lives. So you have that guy, and then you have an equal standing. You don't have a Joe Schmo from the internet, but he might have been a Joe Schmo on the internet that worked his way up to getting there and is at the press event, and he's going to tell you things in a less biased way. He's not perfect. But that guy and Jim Acosta are faced off. Who is more of America going to believe? We don't know, but I'm saying the idea is that independent journalism is thriving now because of the inherent corporate biases of large news conglomerates and their opinions. They are paid for. They're sponsored content. You have to know about sponsored content, dude. What are they doing it for? The truth or for money? Both, ideally, but that doesn't always happen. It's becoming increasingly polarized, where organizations have completely foregone centrism and real unbiased journalism, and they've completely jumped the shark and have just said, you know what? We're throwing in the towel. This is who we are. We are an activism organization now. And I can name you so many of these organizations that exist today. And that's not a big problem. If you think Trump is the biggest problem, you're almost looking at the mountains instead of the trees.
Please name them.
Well, CNN for one of them, Fox News. I mean, all the big ones. MSNBC, I could go on and on. All the biggest, like BBC, they're all biased.
I mean, okay, I think. Well, I just
Breitbart. I mean, you can keep. These are all influencers. Yeah. They're influencers. So who do you go to? The independent guy that's like live streaming and you can see the facts and he's telling you really what is happening, or are you going to tell things that are filtered by sponsored content?
What gives that random dude so much? What imbues that random guy with so much credibility? Like what
viewers and truth and viewers.
But what gives that guy did God choose this person to be the truth?
Hard work. He circumvented the corporate bias and the BS.
He has his own bias. He is a person. He's a random person. He's an individual. He has a bias. Everyone has their own bias.
But if you are going to proceed with each manner of reporting in a way that presents facts on every single side and then just gives you that is far more, to me, it's more influential and it's more important going forward than organizations that cherry pick what they report to serve a certain agenda.
Well, okay, no matter what, there's always an agenda. Like, no matter what.
The truth can be an agenda, and no one has the truth in mind.
I place my trust in the organizations that have been doing this for years.
Misguided. You're misguided.
Dude, they've been doing it since.
It's a changing world, man.
Dude. The muckrakers. We've had this conversation before. The muckrakers invented investigative journalism in like the early 20th century, and that's how we got trust busting. That's how they showed us all about corporate monopolies that were ruining the lives of regular Americans and stifling business, and that was how investigative journalism was born. And I think, yes, there's profiteers out there, and they're playing both sides, and they gave Trump a bunch of airtime because they made a bunch of money. And I mean, the entire industry has been widowed away because the internet has destroyed their entire business platform. So I think the industry itself is undergoing some growing pains, and they're probably taking too much money from I think that there needs to be a little bit more commitment to democracy, and in certain cases maybe they should stop having crazy people who are spouting conspiracy theories. Maybe they shouldn't put those people on television because they've already been debunked, and they're spreading lies. Just showing Trump's unedited out rallies because it makes a bunch of money. And so there needs to be some, I mean, that's part of the discussion. Everyone loves to criticize the media, and they do make mistakes. I think they handled, I think the mainstream media handled this whole like Iran scaremongering. Only the Wall Street Journal was the only one to publish, the Wall Street Journal and one other place, but not like the Times or the Washington Post, about like this whole Iran. I mean, so they learned, you could say that they learned their lesson from Iraq in that sense. But I mean, I think that the Mueller report cited tons of articles about the mainstream media was able to dig around and report on. And I consider that to be the truth of that particular story. There's lots of stories that are going on that we all need to pay attention to, and like
you're missing my point.
Interesting, but for me, and apparently the rest of the country, the main story that we're all focusing on, the narrative that the mainstream media is giving us, because we all feed insatiably big orange daddy, is the story of this. It's still, we haven't resolved it yet. So like, that's what all our news is telling us. And I mean, I think it's, I don't, how do we want to get our news media? Do we want to have the private industry take care of our news, or do we want our news to be funded by the government, or should we all start like finding our own online messiahs to, worship? I mean,
see, this is where you're so condescending when you say like online messiahs, as if like someone with an independent mind has to be like a cult leader or something. That's exactly the fucking problem with people that watch mainstream news and think that it's gospel. I mean, this is your exact problem. And I would say that it's, they're profiteers, man. They profit off of news. Like, it's almost like if there's no interesting news, their industry completely dies. So it's always going to create, and it's a machine. It's always going to create news because they love Trump. They elected Trump. The media elected Trump because they would show his rallies uninterrupted when they wouldn't even give Bernie Sanders like 2 minutes, 50 seconds. So yes, I mean, the media is rigged completely in a certain direction, and it's one that makes them money. It's about green. The only color they care about is the Green Party. And listen, let me finish. You went for like a million years there. Look, that you want to know what is the future. What's the future? Okay, so Hunter S. Thompson is an example of an independent journalist. And you might say that gonzo journalism isn't real journalism, or it's chaotic and it's riddled with lies and drug influences, and it's horrible. But I would also argue that, yes, you're right. It's lowbrow journalism. But at the same time, you can also interpret it as the most truth-based journalism, because it's coming from a first-person, like visceral, like drug-induced psychedelic place where that's entertaining. News is entertaining. It's all entertainment. Like, CNN literally promotes their debates the same way that the WWE promotes their things. I mean, it's all about the gladiatorial excitement of getting ratings and showtime. And Trump was the perfect president for this time because he's like old-timey Showtime. He's the reality TV show, vaudeville villain. And it's incredible. And, the media is about money. And so that's why I don't trust it completely, the mainstream corporate-based media. And so I might follow one of these messiahs because, this sounds like they're telling the truth in a way that Bernie Sanders gets 30 seconds for like 3 days, and they're showing Trump rallies uninterrupted. You think I think it's a little bit biased? Oh, no, it's not biased at all. They gave Bernie a fair shake. This is a lie. They lie to you because they want money, and you buy it when information exists everywhere. I don't have to tune into fucking CNN to learn about the world. It's filtered world. They don't talk about stuff that's going on in Thailand, in Argentina. I'm going to go there. I'm going to seek other independent sources. I'm going to figure it out for myself. And I'm going to listen to everybody. And I'm not going to just listen to, CNN is gospel. Fox News knows everything, right? Yes, MSNBC knows everything about what's going on in Brazil right now. They're going to tell me the truth. No, I don't buy it, man. 100% don't buy it. And, I'm going to go to the grave with that kind of skepticism that you are so willing to just overlook in the name of American truth. It's dumb.
I love this. It's good. No, I don't disagree, man. I think in some ways, but I mean, I think Hunter S. Thompson is a good point. I mean, lest we forget, he ran on the Freak Power ticket, 1970, and almost won, but the damn Republicans and Democrats teamed up together to defeat him. They worked together, and so they defeated him. Otherwise, he had a plurality of the votes, I think, or a plurality.
They were representative of CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. And
yeah. Well, I mean, that's how it works. I mean, that's like the system that it is. And, yeah, I mean, I think knowing about it is just important. I mean, he was able to continue on. He was thinking about running for president, man, on the Freak Power ticket after 1972. I mean, think about that. I just finished reading Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail 72. I thought that was just very. I feel like that cooled me down a little bit, just because I don't hear myself. But he, I mean, he invested himself in the McGovern campaign. He followed the McGovern campaign trail for an entire year, and it's a great insight into American journalism and just the state of. He has just some great commentary on it all. But yeah, I mean, he knew all how terrible Nixon was. He saw all of it. And he invested in. He had all these hopes, and then McGovern won, and he was going to beat Hubert Humphrey, which is a Democratic establishment. All the Daley was like behind him. All the war. It was just all old school politics. The Democratic machine. McGovern was going to like kind of evolve the Democratic Party and all this youth movement. Hunter S. Thompson was super into that, and. Then McGovern chose some guy named Eagleton, who had like mental breakdowns and electroshock therapy, and the whole country was like, "Damn, like we can't trust this man as vice president. It's a huge scandal." And so Nixon didn't even have to run, and he like didn't even need to run a campaign almost. It was just all this other stuff too, but. And then Nixon won, and look what happened. Hunter S. Thompson saw that. I mean, that's what I feel like we're up, 2020. That's what gives me like solace where, if Donald Trump were, I don't think he will be. I mean, I do not think that he has a chance. But if he wins re-election, it's like, well, fuck first, but then like, if they got through Nixon, like maybe we'll be able to get through this.
What matters to me most is that the right kind of Democrat defeats him. I think if it's a Hillary Clinton type, I'm not going to be excited. I'm sorry. I think it's going to be more of the same. I know you might say it's completely different because she's different on abortion and different on, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're like the same person, same kind of candidate in a lot of ways. So I don't want a corporate Democrat in office, and that really matters to me the more I think about it, because I don't know if their interests are my interests.
Well, I think for the future, what we should do. I mean, this is what I would. Why don't we hold ourselves to the standard that we are asking of the rest of America, and we need to debate like the actual, like, issues that these candidates stand for, and not like apply these like figurative labels. Like, what does it mean to be a corporate Democrat? Like, let's talk about who funds them. Yeah. I mean, all this stuff I'm sure will come up throughout the course of events, but like, let's apply I'm all with you on the scrutiny, like, but for the right reasons. I think we should have scrutiny in terms of like, just making sure that this is a fair election. I mean, bare bottom, this needs to be a legitimate election, or else like this shit is really going to go bad. So like this needs to be a free and fair election, and people need to play by the freaking rules. You know, I think everyone should release their tax return. I mean, but let's talk about this as we go. It's kind of like, I think and then, you know, there's going to be issues. God, I can't even, it's going to be just a ridiculous. Oh,
It's gonna be fun. We're going to be here on the,
what? Too long. Campaign season.
It's going to be fun, and we're going to be here on the State of Everything, covering the whole thing. So tune in
to Xander and Thias.
Is that the end of that? Are we done? You know, anything to add?
I'm good with that.
That was a good ending. I should have just ended it there.
Or here.
We can end it right here. You don't have any shout outs this week? That's the end, huh? All right.
Yeah, no shout outs. I don't think.
No shout outs. Go out to you.
Mayor of Chicago, I think Lori Lightfoot, first black, gay, lesbian mayor.
Awesome. Cool. Great.